Hey guys, this is Paul Potter, the Grand Lake Guy, and today I'm going to be talking about the basics of crappie fishing and sharing 3 tips that are going to help you catch these crappie. And it's coming up right now in this video. So if you're addicted to crappie fishing just like I am, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and give me a like by hitting the thumbs up below. So we are on our way to Academy Sports, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I would buy if I was just starting out crappie fishing. Okay, we have arrived at the getting store. Deer corn. I always love walking into Academy Sports. When you step in here, it just smells so good. It smells like sporty stuff, you know what I mean? And then this is the spot. Every time I get to this spot right here, I get super excited. What you want to look for when you're crappie fishing is actually an ultralight to a medium ultralight. And what you can see is, you can see how much bend this one has. It's very flimsy. That's what you're looking for. And one of the best ways to test these out is actually turn the eyes upside down and put them on the floor like this and bend it. And as you can see, this pole is bending about halfway, which is really good. That means that's a flimsy rod. It's going to bend really easy. And that's what you want when you're crappie fishing. If we look at a bass rod, I'll show you exactly the bend in it. So this one, you can tell it doesn't bend that much. If I take it and I shake it, it's not that flimsy, okay? So if I take the eyes and I put the eyes upside down and I go to bend it, you can tell that's about how far it bends. Okay, this is not a crappie rod, this is actually a bass rod, so this isn't what you want. Now a lot of times Walmart or Bass Pro or Academy, they will have a pre-set up combo. Okay, so now let's talk about reels. If I was going to pick up a reel today, I actually have this reel right here. I've bought this. It's a $50 reel. It's a Fluger. It's super smooth and I love it. Back of it, you can read it and it'll tell you what kind of line that you can put on it. So here's the capacity. You can have 4 to 8 pound braid or 2 to 6 pound mono. Number 2, Mr. Crappie hooks. These are my absolute favorite hooks when I'm fishing with minnows. I actually need some of these, so I'm gonna get a package of them. Actually, I may get 4 or 5 packages of them. I love keeping these things on hand. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. When it comes to jig heads, colors really doesn't matter. I have found that it does not make that big of a difference. I actually like to use the jigs that don't have any color on them at all. But that's what I would recommend using. Don't get a colored jig, use these because they're cheaper than a colored jig most of the time. Okay, we have reached the Bobby Garland section. These are the jigs that I love. I will use Bobby Garland almost over anything else when it comes to jigs. I love these things. What I'm looking for is baby shad monkey milk right here. Love these guys right here. This is good stuff. And then my all-time favorite, the slab slayers, the one that looks like the slab slayers, and they also have one that has 2 tails on the end of it. They're really good, black and chartreuse. I love this jig, so I'm gonna get some of these too. Okay, so now let's talk about fishing line. What I recommend using is a 6 pound fluorocarbon line like this one right here, or you can get monofilament, Mr. Crappie monofilament. It's pretty good too right here. I would not go with 8 pound, but I would stick with the 4 or the 6 pound. And I love this Berkley Vanish. If you can find this in 6 pound line, I actually believe this is the best line they make. Here's something you're definitely going to want to use. I never leave home without this stuff. Power bait crappie nibbles. Love this stuff. I've got like four jars of it in my boat, so I'm not going to get any more of it.
Thank you.
Okay, so crappie fishing tip number 1 is you have to learn to detect crappie bites, because crappie do not bite like bass or catfish or any other fish out there. So the first thing I want you to know about detecting a crappie bite is you have to learn to feel the crappie bite. And the way a crappie bites, it's a thump. So on the end of your pole, it'll just feel like this. Thump, like that. It's just even the biggest crappie out there will bite, and you will just feel the slightest little thump, okay? The second way to detect crappie bites is actually by looking at the end of your pole, okay? Because just because you're gonna feel a thump most of the time, sometimes all you'll see is the tip of your pole go down just like that. And if you see that, you're gonna wanna set the hook. Okay, the third way that you wanna detect a crappie bite is actually by looking at the line. So when you're fishing and that line is straight and it's in the water, if you see this line go slack like that, set the hook. That means that a crappie has come up and bitten your bait and went in an upward motion and lifted your line up out of the water. You want to set the hook. Okay, crappie fishing tip number 2 is use 2 jigs or 2 minnows all the time. You're going to double your chances of catching fish, and I promise you it works when nothing else will. So what I'm going to do is show you my favorite setup. We already went and bought some Bobby Garland jigs, so I'm going to set those up for you and show you exactly what they look like. Okay, so what I have right here is a Bobby Garland slab slayer, and it's got, you know, 2 little tails on it right here. And during the fall time, what I'm going to do is take this and actually cut it in half like this right here, and that's what I'm going to put on my line, just like that right there. And you can see it has a very small profile to it. Now for the second jig, I'm just going to leave it at full size, and I'm actually going to put it on just like you would any other jig. So now what we have right here is a double jig setup, and you can see they're the same jig, but one of them is cut in half, making it just a smaller profile. It just gives them an option, a different look, so they can decide which one they want. And what I do is if they start biting this top, the smaller jig, I will go ahead and cut the bottom one in half as well. But if they prefer a bigger jig, then what I'll do is wind up taking this smaller one off and put a bigger one on the top as well. And the other thing I'm going to do is put these power bait crappie nibbles on there. I never leave home without these. This is my favorite fish attractant to put on jigs, just like this one. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off, and all you do is just take one of these, and this is a sparkly kind, but you just push it on there, and that's all you do right there. Okay, crappie fishing tip number 3 is understanding that depth is so important. It's probably the most important thing in crappie fishing. So when I say that depth is the most important thing in crappie fishing, what I'm talking about is crappie have eyes that are really on the top of their head, and they look at an upward angle, and that's the way they feed. They feed at an upward angle. So if you put bait too deep, they're not going to see your bait, and you're not going to get a bite. So what you want to do is find the right depth. So if these crappie are at 10 feet, you want to put your bait at 9 feet so that they can look up and see your bait and go get a bite. Now, if you don't know what depth that the crappie are actually holding on, what I recommend doing is dropping your bait all the way to the bottom and then reeling it up about 1 foot from the bottom and holding it there for 15 seconds. And if you don't get a bite after 15 seconds, I want you to reel it in a couple times and raise it up another foot and hold it there for 15 seconds. And I want you to continue that process. If you don't get a bite, reel it up. Keep reeling it up every 15 seconds and holding it there until you get a bite. All right, guys, that's it. That's the basic crappie fishing tips for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys this weekend. We're going to be doing some fishing.